are in the Aberdeenshire countryside today, visiting Reservoir Group. And we are going to learn about how coring works, what type of equipment is being used, and how to get this out of the ground. This is Steve Reid, Coring Manager Europe at the Reservoir Group, and he is going to explain a bit about how a coring assembly looks like. So Steve, what are we looking at here?
So this here we'll start with is our coring BHA.
Yeah.
So essentially this is what we're going to attach to the drill pipe, run in hole, and ultimately cut some core for you.
Right.
Starting from core head at the bottom, so this is the bit doing the work, cutting the core.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the rest of the BHA.
And this is stabilizer, isn't it?
Correct, yes.
To keep the assembly in place.
Correct.
Yeah. And this is screwed onto
This
the
is
grey
our
bit.
outer barrel.
Yeah.
And then another stabilizer at the top of the outer barrel.
Right. And you used these are standard lengths.
Correct.
For you guys, I think, isn't it?
Yes. So this, an outer barrel plus a stabilizer is a 6 meter module.
Right.
And we can multiply these as many times as needed to cut the desired length of core.
Right. And if we go back to the bit here, so what kind of size is this? The diameter?
This, in this case here, this is an 8.5 inch core head. So this would cut 4-inch core.
Right.
We can cut core in various hole sizes, 12.25, 8.5, 6 inch, and some variants around there, but they're the main and most common ones.
I see. And then, okay, so you're in the hole, cutting the core, and I think this is another essential element of the whole assembly, isn't it?
Correct. So we run in hole, we start cutting core. So our core head, as I said before, does all the work.
Yeah.
It's essentially a drill bit with a hole in the middle.
Yeah.
And then we've got core going into the core barrel.
Going in, yeah.
When it's in the core barrel, it enters into this here, which is our inner tube.
Yeah.
So this section here, this red piece is 6 meters long.
Right.
And this section at the bottom is what we call the shoe or the catcher. And this is the bit that when we're finished coring, make sure all the core stays inside and doesn't fall out.
Right. Because so what is the catch here then? Because it's this rough surface here that I feel.
Yes. So inside here, there's a catcher. It's like a ring.
Yeah.
And as we pick off bottom, that closes around the core to hold it in place.
Right. So whilst the coring process is ongoing, Steve, so this outer barrel is rotating.
Correct.
In the hole.
Yes.
And what about the inner barrel?
So we want to make sure the inner barrel does not rotate whilst we're coring.
Yeah. And that's really to prevent damage to the core, I suppose.
Correct. Yes. So the core is static.
Yeah.
Still attached to the reservoir, hopefully, or the formation.
Yes.
And if you've got a tube rotating at 70 RPM right next to it, then you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
So the inner tube actually hangs off of a bearing at the top stabilizer.
Right.
So it's not screwed into the outer barrel in any way. It hangs off a bearing.
Yes.
And that means that the outer tube can rotate and the inner tube can stay static whilst we're coring.
Right. So now, next step, we are looking at a core cradle, Steve.
Yes.
What is that all about?
So we have to use our imagination a bit here and remember that this is all happening vertically on the rig floor. So we've got our inner tube hanging from the lift sub.
Right.
And we have to attach it to this cradle. And the purpose of this cradle is purely to stop the inner tube from bending. Because if it bends, your core is going to be in not good condition. So we need to try and avoid that.
Yes.
So we attach it to one of these cradles. We put a ratchet strap around the bottom there to secure the bottom in place.
Yeah.
And then we're ready to take it vertically from the rig floor down into the processing area. Most likely the pipe deck or somewhere on the rig.
Yeah. And then I suppose you still have got this one attached to it.
Yes.
And then you start kind of taking it out.
Correct. So once we get the core cradle into the processing area, we can then extract the aluminium and the core from the tube.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned before, in our case, we have this piston on the inside here. So what would happen is we would attach a water supply to this section of the pump out unit.
Yeah.
We have these seals here. to prevent the water contacting the core, which is very important.
Yes.
And the water pressure will slowly push the aluminium out of the inner tube
Right.
with the core.
With the core.
Yes.
So we are still on the rig floor. We just looked at the inner pipe, and what's next, Steve?
Okay, so the next step is we have to extract the aluminium from the inner tube so we can start processing it.
Yeah.
So we started the pump out process at the top. The aluminium then gets extracted onto an empty receiving cradle.
Yeah.
That's happening, we're wiping clean all of the mud from the aluminium, so
Yeah.
it's nice and easy to write on.
Yeah.
And then the first step, which is what everyone wants to know, is what's the recovery. So the well site geologist will get their measuring tape and start measuring what the recovery is, so they can report that back.
Right. And in order to know the recovery, I suppose we have to look in the tube.
Well, luckily for
not.
us, we can look in the inner tube,
Yeah.
in the aluminium, but in most cases they would just stick the measuring tape down the top of the tubes to see how much recovery,
right.
how full each tube is.
So just stick a measuring tape in.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we would go to actually, once we've confirmed recovery, we would then mark the aluminium with the depths.
Yeah.
And then, for us, we can then have a look at the core
Right.
with our half-moon
Exciting.
system. So now the well site geologist has the opportunity to actually physically look at the core that's been recovered. And if there's an exploration well, for example,
Yeah.
maybe there's a further decision required based on the results of that run.
Yeah.
If there's been a problem during the run, you can get some extra information. Was there junk in the hole, for example? That was the cause of the problem.
Right.
So you get access to all this extra information you normally wouldn't have.
Right. So that is really helpful.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And so we've got a 6 meter length here, and I guess for transport it's being cut into smaller
Correct.
bits, isn't it?
Yeah, so we would then put the half moon back on.
Yeah.
We would then attach clips across the inner tube to keep the aluminium to keep it together, and
Yeah.
then we would use a saw unit to cut it into typically 1 meter lengths
Right.
for packaging.
Yeah. And then it goes
Off to the lab.
off to the lab. Yeah.
Yes,
Brilliant.
for analysis.
Indeed.